Hey everyone, it's Tom here again. Hope you're doing okay. We're looking this week at stories from the Bible of God's people in lockdown. We're living in lockdown right now, but we aren't by any means the first to experience the kind of stresses and strains that it brings. And today we're going to be looking at a story from the life of Joseph. And we'll be reading from Genesis chapter 39 and starting at verse 19. Genesis 39, verse 19. You can read along with me, or you can just listen in. And here we find Joseph in Egypt. He's been sold to Potiphar, and under Potiphar he became very successful. After a somewhat challenging time previously with his brothers, Joseph has now been enjoying prosperity and responsibility in Egypt. And then we pick up the story where the wife of Joseph's master, after a series of disturbing advances on him, ends up accusing Joseph of trying to rape her, a crime which he didn't commit, quite the opposite, in fact. And then we read from verse 19. As soon as his master heard the words that his wife spoke to him, "This is the way your servant treated me," his anger was kindled, and Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in prison. So what we see here is Joseph's prosperity thrown into disarray through injustice. The world and its injustice forces itself upon a prosperous, innocent Joseph, and is subjected to a life of lockdown. I wonder if that sounds familiar in any way. For me, at least, that is what our lockdown can often feel like. Unjust, unfair. My life was on course, thank you very much. I was doing okay. I had plans. And then the world and its injustice forces itself into my life, and I'm subjected to lockdown and all its uncertainty and difficulty. Plans and livelihood thrown up in the air. Lockdown is hard. It doesn't feel right. We can't control it. We can't change it. And neither could Joseph. In the last devotion that I did, I described this pandemic that we're living through as trauma. And the hallmark feeling of trauma is powerlessness, feeling like you have no control over your body, your life, or your future. And isn't that what we're dealing with right now? I'm almost certain that Joseph felt the same. His life as he knew it thrown out the window and replaced with one over which he has no control. But then read on, verse 21. But the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him steadfast love, and gave him favour in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever was done there, he was the one who did it. The keeper of the prison paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it succeed. The Lord was with Joseph in the trauma, in the disruption and the lack of control. The Lord was with him and showed him steadfast love. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, to quote that same lament from last time. In the middle of trauma, confusion, lack of control, injustice, and the unfair encroachment of the world upon our lives, the Lord is with us, just as he was with Joseph. And he offers us that same steadfast love. And notice that it doesn't say anything in the passage at all actually about what Joseph does in terms of response to God or prayer or dependence on God or particular strength of faith. There's not a word on it. The writer isn't concerned with Joseph's faith, and we're not supposed to be concerned with it either. What the writer is concerned with is God's faithfulness. They want us to know what God does for Joseph, simply because of God's steadfast love. All the description is what God does for Joseph, not what Joseph does for God. He's with him. He shows him steadfast love, and then he gives him the work to do in the midst of the trauma. And so it is with us today. If your faith feels small, if your emotions aren't at all under wraps right now, maybe you're angry, frustrated at the lockdown and the lack of control, we don't have to have it all together, because the Christian life isn't really about us or what we do or how well we do it. It's about God's kindness, His grace to us, His initiative in showing love to us, just as He did here for Joseph. And so we simply come to Him who is with us in the midst of the trauma and receive His steadfast love that He so loves to pour out faithfully, generation after generation, trauma after trauma, day after day. The Lord was with Joseph in unjust, traumatic lockdown and showed him steadfast love. And the Lord is with us in the very same. May He show us steadfast love today. Let's pray together. Lord, thank You so much that You were with Joseph in the middle of his difficulty and his trauma and his lockdown. No matter how he was feeling, no matter the lack of control that he felt, You were with him and You showed him Your steadfast love. Thank You that Your steadfast love never ceases. And so You offer it to us the very same today. Lord, may we receive Your love afresh today. And no matter how we're feeling, may we rest in Your grace and Your kindness to us. We bring ourselves before You today. Show us Your love. Amen.